Hey, good afternoon, Ryan here. If you're vegan or you're making the transition to this lifestyle by adding more plant foods into your diet, but you're actually gaining weight right now, scratching your head thinking, hold on a sec, I heard this lifestyle had incredible potential from a weight loss perspective. I'm not seeing it though, what's going on? Well, this video is for you. The uncomfortable truth on this is that being vegan isn't automatically enough to lose weight or even maintain weight for that matter, as you're very well finding out. So in this video, I want to share with you 7 common mistakes that I'm seeing in my interactions with hundreds and thousands of folks in my whatever 8 or 9 years making videos on this subject online. Let's get that scale moving. Straight into it. Mistake number 1, eating anything and everything with a vegan label, regardless of its calorie content, its macronutrient breakdown, the chemicals and additives that might be in that food that make it even more insatiable, put you at greater risk of overeating, refined sugars added to the food, of course. What about oils? Coconut oil, wow, that is crammed into a lot of vegan food products without people realizing. Never mind all the fat calories from something like coconut oil, but what about the saturated fat? And from a health perspective, you know, its associations with high cholesterol, inflammation, etc, etc, etc. So it also, like, even if you've got a really clean looking ingredients list, a nutrition label on a vegan food product, that doesn't account for the portions in which you use it, how you manipulate your meals, the combination of other ingredients that you use that particular item within a meal. Do you get what I mean? So just the rule of something being vegan, therefore being better from a weight loss perspective, that is absolute BS, right? I feel very passionately about this lifestyle from an ethical perspective, but I'm no liar. I'm not going to sit here and say that something that is a vegan, labeled vegan, is automatically, it might be, but automatically better from a health and weight loss perspective than the omnivorous equivalent. That's absolute BS. No chance. Ethically, of course, but no chance. So that assumption that I think a lot of people new to this lifestyle have, that, oh, vegan, therefore healthy, it comes as part of like the checklist. Vegan, like gluten-free, oh, therefore it's good for you because it's gluten-free. No, not necessarily. So you have to kind of remove that thinking of something being vegan, therefore automatically better. And that's going to help you make better food choices as you walk around the grocery store. Number 2, kind of already mentioned this one, cooking in oils. It's a calorie bomb. You're looking at maybe 120, 130 calories per tablespoon of oil. So if you're lathering that into your vegetables, oh, it's good, I'm eating lots of veggies. Yeah, but you just put 150 calories of oil on the stuff, mate, that you didn't really need. So sauteing in water, vegetable broth, soy sauce, no, it's not as tasty. No, the food doesn't get as crispy. But honestly, as a recent commenter on one of my posts said, like 3 or 4 days without cooking oil, and it's kind of out of your recent memory. You kind of get over it, and the food tastes good if you season it well enough anyway, and you put together a decent meal anyway. You don't necessarily need the oil, is what I'm trying to say from a taste perspective after a while. Even like a very diluted oil spray is going to be more advantageous from a weight loss perspective than straight oil itself. So I have a rule that there's no cooking in oil at home. If I go out to eat, that's different, because I'm not going to control that, and I'm not going to micromanage to the degree where I'm neurotic about this stuff. But like, it needs to be realistic, doesn't it? But at home, no cooking oil, and that's a great way to save calories. Vegan diet mistake number 3 that can cause weight gain: not eating enough beans. They are fiber loaded, which helps you stay fuller for longer, therefore subsequently less tempted, in theory, by the junk foods. Now, you could still lose weight not eating beans, so this is not a hard and fast rule, and it's one of those indirect things. It's not as though eating beans equals more fat loss. It's more about what it stops you doing elsewhere because of how full and satisfied it makes you. Now, full transparency, there's a couple of things I've thought of here, like lentils, other food items I should say. White potato is really good for this. Lots of vegetables, many fruits that are really feeling really satisfying on a plant-based diet. But I haven't chosen to mention those things today. I'm singling out beans as being something for me personally that I can tell, because my hunger feels less controllable when I'm not having beans every day. I'm singling the beans out as being a really critical ingredient for fullness and satisfaction while maintaining that all-important calorie deficit to drop weight. And actually, one of the biggest mistakes I'm seeing when I'm having my interactions with you lovely people online, I'm doing these kind of deep dive diet diagnosis basis, whether it's just in the comments section sometimes, or maybe with especially with new prospective clients, and they're telling me, you know what, Ryan, I know beans are really good for me. I like beans, and I'm like, all right, good. That's a good start. How often you eat them? Oh, to be honest, it's been a couple of days, and I like the chickpea salads, and I like doing black beans in my burrito bowls. All right, great. How often are you doing them? Oh, I haven't bought them for ages. What are you doing? What are you playing at? They're so incredible for keeping you full and satisfied and subsequently less tempted by the junk food. Of course, it's not a guarantee. There's lots of things that drive cravings, drive hunger. There's lots of other mistakes that you could be making in your diet, a la the things we're discussing today. But there is something, there's no magic pill, but there is something about beans that when it's a real staple of the diet, I find it way less tempting to go and overeat on the really calorific stuff. Oh, number 4 is a really rookie one. Peanut butter straight from the jar. Unmeasured, dipping your spoon in there, munching on it. Maybe you're lathering it on your toast and you're thinking, well, that's about a tablespoon. But if you actually had to weigh it, it's like 40 grams of peanut butter. Well, that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a decent calorie contributor there to your overall daily calorie intake. That's a big chunk of your calories spent, quote unquote, from not actually a huge amount of food. And look, whilst I respect portions and measuring, and that's part of my MO and my whole shtick here, that look, just because you're vegan, just because you're plant-based, that doesn't mean you get to eat as much as you want. That's been a lot of my shtick for years on this channel. Simultaneously, there's a lot of low-calorie dense stuff, like the fruits, especially the non-starchy veg as well, but the low-calorie fruits like berries, things like that. Maybe even going back for a little bit more rice. Like, I do these things if I feel like I'm actually hungry. I am not super neurotic about using a bit more food. Do I always count the cucumber that I munch on at night if I'm still a little bit hungry in my daily calories? Not always. I'm not perfect with these things. I don't want to be too ludicrously extreme. I'm not trying to get lean like an athlete or a stage-ready bodybuilder, so I don't want it to be too crazy. It's slim and sustain, right? We're not into the extremes here. But simultaneously, nut butter, you do have to be vigilant with because the calorie density. And you might also throw into like this just nuts themselves, like cashews and maybe dried fruit, especially medjool dates. This is stuff that you do have to be more conscientious with because yes, it's healthy, yes, it's plant-based, yes, it's got that vegan label, and it's a whole food. You're thinking, oh great, that's a really healthy snack. Yeah, but it's mightily calorific, so you just have to be vigilant with it. And then once the jar, this is the thing with peanut butter though, ahead of like medjool dates and cashews, just eating straight nuts and trail mix and things like this. This is why peanut butter is particularly threatening. It's one of those things that when the jar is open, it just lurks in the cupboard and people smear it onto toast in very generous amounts. But then they also just like, I have a lot of clients over the years that before they came to me, they had a real problem with just going and digging into the peanut butter and just spending all of those calories so easily on a measly tablespoon because of how calorific it is. So no, this doesn't mean you need to eliminate peanut butter, but if you are having a hard time controlling yourself, don't buy it. I talk about this. Like, I don't often have peanut butter in my house because it's a trigger risk. Now, as much as I sit here and boast that, hey guys, I've got so much control around food, it was possible for me, I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Yeah, but I don't want you to mistake that as, oh, I can be around any food at any time and still maintain 100% control. There's still foods now that it's actually easier. I keep things safer by not keeping them in the house all that often, and peanut butter is one of those things, even for me with all my experience doing this. Number 5, I've just kind of inadvertently talked about this on the previous point, but unchecked portions. Just because it's healthy, yeah, just because it's vegan, just because it's healthy, just because it's plant-based, that doesn't mean you get to eat as much as you want. There is a mythos in some corners of the plant-based space that, hey, and it's become a real selling point for those get myself into trouble here, but those coaches and those nutrition teachers who I see eye to eye on an awful lot with, but when they sit there and they say, oh, don't worry about the calories too much or the portions, guys, because like you're eating clean anyway, you're eating plant-based anyway, I like wince when I hear those kinds of statements because I know, because all of those people then come to me and apply for my program saying, hi Ryan, I eat really clean, why is the scale not moving? That's why you're watching this video right now. Okay, unless there's some really obvious overt junk food habits, they need to go as well. Like, yes, you can still overeat on healthy food. We've just talked about the nut butter, but hey, even if you don't have the super calorific stuff, all right, even if we're talking about sensible whole grains and fruits and vegetables and beans that we just spoke about so highly a couple of minutes ago, you can still overeat on this stuff too. Like, you need to be in a consistent calorie deficit to lose weight. Now, eating cleanly is a much more advantageous way to do that than having lots of super processed, unhealthy junk food. Yes, but again, not a guarantee. So no, you don't get to eat as much as you want. Sorry. Vegan diet mistake number 6 that can cause weight gain, adding canned coconut milk to your curries. I don't mean the very diluted coconut milk you might throw on your oats or your cereal, but the canned stuff. And this is a calorie bomb, number 1. I mentioned the saturated fat when I spoke about coconut oil earlier. But, you know, this is delicious, it's rich, I understand it, I understand why people have a hard time parting with it, but it's such a big calorie bomb. Now, again, you can still eat high calorie foods. Regarding the previous point where I said, look, you need a consistent calorie deficit to lose weight, you can still eat high calorie foods, even peanut butter, but like canned coconut milk, and you can build it into your diet, yes you can, but again, when we talk about weight loss, we want to think about bang for buck nutrition. How can I maximize fullness and satisfaction, enjoyment of my diet per calorie? How can I make that calorie amount that I got to eat every day to lose weight? How can I, even if you're not tracking your calories, you still need to think like this, I think. How can I make that stretch as far as possible? It's like budgeting with your finances. How can I make that money last me as long as possible? How can I have, you know, make the smartest decisions? How can I get the furthest out of that money rather than crazy spending? Think about your nutrition exactly the same way when it comes to losing weight. Coconut milk, maybe for you it's a deal breaker. Maybe you don't want that chickpea curry or that red lentil dal if you can't put a little bit of canned coconut milk in it. Who am I to say otherwise? I'd still warn you about the saturated fat though. I'd still be really cautious about the saturated fat though. I'd say, hey look, if you are gonna do this, please don't use much, I don't advise it. But from a calorie perspective, there is just better ways to use those calories that I actually think will give you more of a feeling of perceived satisfaction, physical satisfaction, never mind perceived physiological, and fullness, etc., etc., etc. Again, there's also an argument that, well, it's not that fullness and satisfaction are the only prerequisites, the only criteria for enjoying a weight loss diet. Maybe you need a meal to taste good too, and that's mentally satisfying. Yeah, I get those arguments, but again, do you need like a whole can of canned coconut milk going into curry that you have half of? Do you really need that to enjoy a meal and therefore subsequently stick to your diet? Don't know, it's a bit of a cop-out excuse for me. And lastly, number 7, this is always a polarizing one, not for my audience because people kind of get this, but me internally, it's drinking more calories than you chew. Yeah, this can be a mistake. And why this is so polarizing for me is because I actually like drinking smoothies and juices, and when they're controlled, when they're built into your diet, when they're still treated like real food, because it's from real ingredients, this is no problem. Like, you can lose plenty of weight drinking these things if you treat it the same way as you do a meal, but people don't. People treat it freely, and people and maybe sense they don't have as much perceived satisfaction when they're drinking versus that chew factor being present if they were to just eat the ingredients in the smoothie, for example, in a whole food form. And what about that 160, 170 calories of oat milk in their Starbucks latte that they have every day? They're not even thinking about really, because it's grab and go, it's on the go, and oh my goodness, I didn't realize it was that many calories, Ryan, is what people say to me when I have this conversation. Literally every day I have this conversation, people are like, really? Is that how many calories? Yeah, go look on the Starbucks website or go and look on oat milk packets, or consider as well, they might not just be using any old regular oat milk. It might be one of those really thick and creamy, again, subsequently very calorific ones, and they're just and again, it's like they will have a recommended portion size for that, but who's to say they're doing it exactly to the letter, to the exact tablespoon, to the exact milligram? Again, maybe you don't need to be neurotic to that level, as I spoke about earlier on, but you catch my drift here. Like, this stuff is really easy to underestimate, I think. You just need to account for it. And again, think about bang for buck. Are you getting the most satisfaction per calorie spent on a beverage as you would maybe a whole food snack instead of having that beverage? So that's it if you're vegan and gaining weight right now, or actually you were losing weight previously but you've hit that dreaded plateau and nothing seems to be budging anymore after it was going so well for you. Well, it's usually one of these or several of these 7 things that I've covered today. I'm seeing these things over and over and over again. And the result, as I've implied throughout, of all of these 7 mistakes is that your calories might well be creeping just a little bit too high to notice that scale dropping 1 to 2 pounds per week consistently in that healthy, sustainable range of weight loss. And sadly, this doesn't fix itself by nature of the conversations that I'm having over and over with the same folks for months and months. Then they eventually join my program and they're like, I wish I just joined 2 years ago when I first started watching your videos, Ryan, because I've just been spinning my wheels, doing the healthy vegan thing, and not really getting it together with this whole calorie shtick and this whole calorie spiel. So yeah, people do this for months and months and think they're doing everything right, only to make zero progress. It's really, really depressing actually to see. If you want me to personally show you exactly what's going wrong, build you a plan that actually fixes those problems, unearth what's stopping you from losing weight right now, you can of course inquire more about my coaching services. I'll drop the link in the description box below. But hopefully initially I've pinpointed some major weight loss, weight gain red flags throughout this video if you're a vegan or plant-based diet. I hope it helps you out. See you in the next one.